What if I told you a 12-year-old homeless boy walked onto one of the world's biggest stages and left the world speechless? He didn't have a last name. He didn't have a home. But when his fingers touched the piano, it was like the universe paused to listen. What the audience didn't know, he was the son of a billionaire, a secret buried for over a decade, and the most powerful man in the city would do anything to silence him. This isn't just a story about music. It's about truth, family, and what happens when a forgotten child finds his voice. Stay with us because this one, it'll stay with you forever. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We've got more true stories that'll restore your faith in the human spirit. Kelly curled his toes against the cold pavement, careful not to wake his little sister sleeping beside him on the bench. The subway station was quieter than usual this morning. Just the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant rumble of a train. At 12 years old, Kelly had already learned how to be invisible. People didn't see kids like him. Not the businessmen rushing past. Not the tourists snapping photos of the city's grime like it was art. Definitely not the fancy ladies with shiny shoes who clutched their bags when they saw his skin and his clothes. But there was one thing people did notice: the piano. It stood at the edge of the platform, one of those old public pianos someone had donated years ago. Its black paint chipped and keys yellowed with time. Most days, it sat silent, forgotten. But not when Kelly was around. He waited until the station was nearly empty. Then, slowly, he approached the piano like it was a sacred object. He wiped the dust off the keys with his sleeve, glancing around. His fingers hovered for a moment. Then he began to play. Not nursery rhymes, not pop songs, but something rich and deep and aching, notes that poured out like he was telling a story only music could hold. The sound echoed off the tile walls, soft at first, then bold, like rain becoming a storm. Upstairs, on the street level, a woman in heels paused as the music reached her ears. She turned toward the sound, frowning in curiosity. Her name was Evelyn Hart, CEO of a music foundation, heir to a real estate empire, and someone who hadn't taken the subway in over a decade. But something about the music pulled her. It wasn't just pretty, it was impossible. By the time she reached the bottom of the stairs, she saw him, the boy, with bare feet, tattered clothes, and closed eyes, completely lost in the music. She froze. That melody, it was Chopin, but not quite. It was like the boy was rewriting it as he went, freer, more soulful. Evelyn's heart skipped. When the final note faded, Kelly opened his eyes and jumped. He hadn't seen her there. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean to, That was you?" Evelyn asked. Kelly nodded, unsure if he was in trouble. She stepped closer, scanning the keys. Then the boy's face. "Where did you learn to play like that?" Kelly hesitated. "I didn't. I just play what I hear." Evelyn felt goosebumps on her arms. Behind them, a train pulled in. The moment was about to vanish. "Wait here," she said, reaching into her coat. She handed Kelly a business card with trembling fingers. "Come to this address tomorrow, 10 a.m. sharp." Kelly stared at the card, then back at her. "Why?" "Because I think the world needs to hear what you just played." She turned and disappeared into the crowd before he could say a word. Kelly looked down at the card. Evelyn Hart, Hart Music Institute. He didn't know what it meant, but something told him this was just the beginning. Kelly turned the business card over in his fingers 100 times that night. His little sister, Maya, lay curled beside him under a thin blanket, unaware of how his heart pounded beneath his hoodie. 10. That time ticked louder in his mind than the subway trains. They had nowhere else to go anyway. Maybe this Evelyn lady was for real. Maybe it was a trick. But one thing Kelly knew for sure: people didn't stop and listen to kids like him unless they wanted something. Still, he couldn't ignore what her eyes looked like when she watched him play. Not judgment, not pity, wonder. Like maybe he was something rare. The next morning, he left Maya in the care of a kind fruit vendor they trusted and climbed the steps of a tall glass building in Midtown Manhattan. He felt out of place the moment the doors opened. Polished floors, tall ceilings, and people in clothes that probably cost more than everything he'd ever owned. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked, eyeing his hoodie and frayed jeans. I'm Kelly. She told me to come. Evelyn Hart." The woman frowned, but tapped something on her keyboard. Then her eyebrows lifted in surprise. "Oh, you're that Kelly. She's expecting you." A few minutes later, Kelly found himself in a sleek office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Evelyn sat behind a piano-shaped desk, but stood as soon as she saw him. "I'm glad you came," she said warmly. Kelly nodded, clutching the straps of his backpack like a life vest. "You hungry?" He blinked. "A little." She pressed a button, and within minutes, a tray of croissant, fruit, and hot chocolate arrived. Kelly's stomach betrayed him with a loud growl. "You can eat," she said. Amused, he sat, awkward at first, then devoured the food like he hadn't eaten in days because he hadn't. When he finished, Evelyn handed him a small towel and a bottle of water. "Come with me." They walked down a hallway lined with photos famous composers, young prodigies, competition winners. At the end was a quiet studio with a grand Steinway piano under a skylight. "Sit," Evelyn said. Kelly approached the piano like it might vanish if he moved too fast. "I don't read music," he whispered. "I don't care." "Play." He sat, closed his eyes, and let his fingers speak. What came out wasn't just a song. It was a storm. Joy, hunger, fear, longing, all in harmony. Evelyn watched, frozen, as the boy transformed into something transcendent. His fingers danced like they had minds of their own, but every note had meaning. When he finished, the room was silent, then a quiet gasp. Evelyn wasn't alone. A man in a gray suit had been standing in the back. "Who is this boy?" he asked. Evelyn straightened. "This is Kelly, and I think he's the one." The man stepped forward. "My name is Roland Vega. I run the National Youth Symphony. I'd like to run some tests." "Tests?" Kelly asked. "Alarm, don't worry," Evelyn said quickly. "It's not like school. Just listening games, memory, pitch. We want to understand how your mind works." Kelly looked unsure, but nodded. What choice did he have? As they walked away, Roland whispered to Evelyn, "You know what this means, don't you?" She nodded. "But there's something else I didn't tell you." "What?" "I ran his DNA last night. Kelly isn't just gifted. He's connected to someone powerful. Someone who won't like what we've found." The testing room looked nothing like a classroom. No desks, no chalkboard, just a sleek glass table, a digital piano, and a computer that beeped softly in the corner. Roland Vega stood with a tablet in hand while a woman with silver-rimmed glasses entered data with the speed of a machine. Kelly sat on a stool, eyes darting between them. "Relax," Roland said. "This isn't a test you can fail." That didn't help much. "Let's begin," said the woman. "Name's Dr. Lin. I work with musical cognition, how the brain processes sound." Kelly nodded, pretending to understand. The first few tasks were simple, matching tones, remembering short melodies. But as the test continued, things got weird. Dr. Lin played 2 chords back to back. "Which one is closer to what you played yesterday?" "Neither," Kelly replied without thinking. "But if you play this," he hummed a 3rd chord, and then this. He tapped 2 keys softly. "That's closer." Roland looked at Dr. Lin. She just blinked, stunned. They hadn't taught him a thing. But he instinctively knew more than most first-year conservatory students. Next, they gave him incomplete pieces of music and asked him to finish them. Kelly filled in every blank not just correctly, but beautifully. He didn't copy the style. He improved it. The harmonies were unexpected, the phrasing perfect. "This is absurd," Dr. Lin murmured. "No training, no reading, no instruction, just raw instinct." Roland leaned closer. "This kid's brain, it's not just hearing music, it's rewriting it in real time." But Kelly wasn't listening anymore. He was looking at a photo on the wall behind them. A man in a tuxedo, standing beside Evelyn Hart. They were smiling, accepting a major award. The caption read, Richard L. Hart, musician, philanthropist, visionary. Kelly tilted his head. Is that your husband? He asked Evelyn. Her face tightened. He passed away last year. Kelly didn't say anything, but something about the man's eyes, the shape of his nose. It felt familiar, unsettling. Suddenly, the door opened. A tall man in a military-style coat stepped in, followed by 2 assistants. His voice cut through the room like a blade. Stop the tests. Now. Roland's face darkened. Senator Camden. This is a private session. I fund this institute, Camden said coldly. I have every right to know what's being done here. He turned to Evelyn. You didn't think I'd hear about this boy. A homeless child found playing classical music in a subway station. And now you're giving him access to our top-level programs. He's not just a child, Evelyn said, standing her ground. He's something special, possibly a once-in-a-generation prodigy. Camden's eyes narrowed. Then he looked at Kelly, really looked at him. His expression shifted. What's your name, boy? Kelly, he said, standing taller than he felt. Camden's eyes flicked back to Evelyn. You tested his DNA. She hesitated. Yes. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Did you find anything unusual? Evelyn didn't answer. That was answer enough. Camden's voice was suddenly ice. This boy is not to be in the public eye. Shut it down. Then he stormed out, leaving the room in stunned silence. Kelly looked at Evelyn, confused. What's going on? She knelt beside him. I don't know everything yet, Kelly, but I do know this. They're afraid of what you might become. Kelly swallowed hard. Why would anyone be afraid of a kid who just plays piano? Evelyn looked at the photo of her late husband. Because sometimes, music isn't the only thing you inherit. That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She stood in her home office, the city skyline glowing beyond the tall windows. On the desk in front of her sat 2 envelopes. One was from the Hart Music Institute's archives, a sealed file she hadn't opened in over a decade. The other was the DNA test result, the one she had rushed after Kelly's first visit. Her fingers trembled as she pulled out the paper. Paternity match, 98% certainty. Father, Richard L. Hart, Evelyn's late husband. She slumped into the chair, heart racing. The timelines fit, the boy's age. Richard's strange absence 9 years ago, a trip he'd said was business in Baltimore, where he'd gone alone, returning quiet and distracted. Evelyn had loved Richard deeply, but even then, she had sensed something hidden. Now she knew what it was. Kelly wasn't just a musical prodigy. He was Richard's son, and if Senator Camden had figured that out, she turned toward the window, fear rising in her chest. Camden had always despised. Richard had tried to cut funding for every music program Richard supported, calling it elitist noise. But it wasn't just politics. Evelyn suspected there was something deeper, a grudge, a secret. Now, Kelly was in danger, and he didn't even know why. Meanwhile, in a tiny back room of the subway station, Kelly sat beside Maya, brushing dust from her braids. Did you really get to play a grand piano? Maya asked, eyes wide. Kelly nodded, and they gave me croissants. Croissants, she gasped. Like the real ones. He grinned, with chocolate inside. Maya looked up at him seriously. Do you think we'll always live here? Kelly's smile faded. I don't know. He wanted to say no. He wanted to promise a better life. But after Senator Camden's face that afternoon, the way he'd looked at him, not like a child, but like a threat, Kelly wasn't sure of anything anymore. The next day, Evelyn picked them up in a black SUV. Maya clung to Kelly's arm as they drove uptown, past blocks they'd never dared walk through before. She took them not to a hotel, but to her own brownstone. You'll stay here for now, she said gently, until we figure things out. Maya's eyes lit up at the cozy bedroom with the big window and a real bed, but Kelly felt like a guest in a castle. He sat stiffly on the edge of a leather chair in the music room, watching Evelyn pace. I need to tell you something, she said finally. Kelly's chest tightened. What? She took a deep breath. Do you know who Richard Hart was? Kelly nodded. He built the music school. He was also my husband. Kelly blinked. Was. He died last year. She hesitated, then added, and he's also your father. The words landed like a thunderclap. Kelly stared at her. That's not possible. I didn't know, Evelyn said, but the DNA test confirms it. He must have had a relationship with your mother years ago. I'm sorry, Kelly. I truly am. Kelly's fists clenched in his lap. I don't even know my mom. She left me and Maya at a shelter when I was 5. I don't know why. Evelyn knelt beside him. But now you know part of where you come from. Richard, he was brilliant, kind, and if he knew about you, I believe he would have found you. Kelly's voice cracked. Then why didn't he? Neither of them had an answer. But one thing was clear now: Kelly wasn't just a boy from nowhere. He was the son of one of the most powerful men in the music world. And that made him a target. Elsewhere, in a darkened office across town, Senator Camden poured himself a drink. A security agent stood before him. Grim. The boy's staying at the Hart residence. Camden smirked. Of course he is. Should we intervene? Not yet, Camden said coldly. Let them believe they're safe. He looked at a photograph on his desk. One of Richard Hart shaking hands with donors at a gala. Camden had been cropped out of the frame. Let the boy play his little tunes, he muttered. But if he ever steps on a real stage, I'll make sure that's the last note he ever plays. 2 weeks passed. Every morning, Kelly practiced at Evelyn's piano room, a sunlit chamber filled with instruments older than his entire life. He played until his fingers ached, and still he didn't want to stop. Evelyn brought in top instructors, but they didn't teach him notes. They just played and watched him answer with music that seemed to come from some place beyond memory. Maya thrived too. She went to school for the first time in years. She wore new shoes, ate real meals. She even smiled in her sleep. But for Kelly, things weren't so simple. The more he played, the more attention he attracted. A video leaked a short clip of him playing Rachmaninoff, eyes closed, hands flying like lightning. It wasn't supposed to go public, but someone had posted it. Within 48 hours, it had 5 million views. Who is this kid? He's better than half the conservatory grads I know. Is this real? The media wanted interviews. Record labels sent offers. News outlets camped outside Evelyn's house. Kelly hated it. He wasn't used to being looked at not like that. Not like a product. Evelyn tried to shield him, but the world was hungry. And then came the invitation. The New York Philharmonic. The most prestigious symphony in the country had a last-minute cancellation for their spring gala. The conductor had seen the viral video. They wanted Kelly to perform solo, on stage, in front of 2,000 people. Roland called it unprecedented. Evelyn called it an opportunity of a lifetime. Kelly, he called it terrifying. That night, Kelly sat on the floor of the guest room. The performance letter crumpled beside him. He stared out the window at the city lights. Maya tiptoed in and plopped beside him. You okay? She asked, tugging at his sleeve. He shrugged. They want me to play at some fancy concert. Maya's eyes lit up. You're gonna do it, right? He didn't answer. She frowned. You love music. I don't love people staring at me like I'm a freak, he muttered. They don't care about me. Just the story. The homeless piano kid who showed up out of nowhere, but they'll hear you, Maya said softly. Even if they don't understand. Kelly looked at her. Play for the people who never had a piano, who had to listen through cracks in the wall. Like us. Kelly swallowed hard. Maybe she was right. Maybe the stage wasn't about him. Maybe it was about every kid who ever felt invisible. The next morning, he walked into Evelyn's office with the letter in his hand. I'll do it, he said quietly. Evelyn looked up, surprised, then proud. But on one condition, anything. You don't put my name on the poster. Evelyn blinked. What? I don't want to be a brand or a gimmick. Just put the boy at the piano. No name. Evelyn considered it, then nodded. Deal. But far across town, Senator Camden read the same headline in the Times. Mystery. Prodigy to perform at spring gala. No name. Only talent. He crushed the paper in his hand. He's not staying silent, he growled. He's sending a message. He picked up the phone. Activate the contingency plan. I want everything on this kid background. DNA. Who's protecting him? I want dirt. Secrets. Something we can use to shut him down. The voice on the line hesitated. Sir, he's just a child. Camden's voice turned to steel. Then it'll be a shame if that child never makes it to the stage. The Lincoln Center shimmered under golden lights. Hundreds of the city's most powerful people, politicians, donors, artists filled the velvet seats of the grand hall. Cameras flashed. A string quartet played softly in the corner. Everyone was buzzing about the mysterious final act. The boy at the piano, no name, no past, just genius. Backstage, Kelly, Pace. He wore a simple black suit, no designer label, no makeup team. His hands trembled, though not from nerves, from instinct. He could feel it. Something wasn't right. Something in the air. Off stage, too many strangers with earpieces. Evelyn had reassured him that security was tight, but Kelly had grown up knowing when to trust his gut. And right now, his gut said, danger is close. Evelyn approached, hands clasped. Are you sure about this? She asked softly. Kelly nodded. I'm not doing it for them. Then who? For me, for Maya, for the kids in the subway who only get music from broken radios. Evelyn touched his shoulder. Your father would have been proud. Kelly's eyes flicked to the curtains. Let's find out. Out in the crowd, Senator Camden sat in the third row, his expression cold. Beside him, his aide whispered, We found something. Sir. Camden's eyes narrowed. His birth records were sealed by private order, but the mother's name matches a hospital file from 9 years ago. Richard Hart signed the paternity line. No one else knows. Yet, Camden's jaw tightened. Leak it. But sir, do it. Tonight. Let's see how the public reacts when they find out their golden boy is the illegitimate child of a billionaire and a homeless pianist. The aide hesitated. That might backfire. Camden smirked. I'm counting on it. The conductor stepped up to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, he began. Tonight, our final performer has no biography, no resume, no formal training, but he has something that cannot be taught. He turned to the wings. A voice that speaks through music alone. Please welcome the boy at the piano. The crowd erupted with curiosity as Kelly walked across the stage. He didn't bow. He didn't wave. He just sat. The lights dim. Silence fell. He closed his eyes and played. The music started soft, a haunting lullaby. It whispered through the rafters, curling around chandeliers like smoke. Then it grew deeper, richer, a storm building. It wasn't classical. It wasn't jazz. It was hymn raw, flawed, brilliant. Every note told a story no words could hold. The crowd sat motionless. Some cried, some forgot to breathe. By the end, Kelly's hands were flying, thunder from the key, and then a single, aching note that hung in the air like a secret. Silence. Then, applause, deafening, roaring, standing. Kelly stood slowly. He looked out at the sea of strangers, eyes shining, but then a flicker of motion in the wings. A man in black moved toward Maya, who had been sitting backstage with Evelyn. Kelly froze. Something inside him cracked. He leapt from the stage, past the stunned orchestra, sprinting into the wings. Maya, he shouted. The crowd gasped. Evelyn turned just in time to see the man's hand on Maya's shoulder. Let go of her, Kelly shouted. The man looked up surprised, then ran. Kelly chased him through the back halls. Guards shouted. Doors slammed. The man vanished into a service exit. Maya clung to her brother, crying. Who was that? What did he want? Kelly held her tight. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Back in the auditorium, chaos erupted. The performance, the emotion, all overshadowed by the shocking chase backstage. Camden sat calmly in his seat, smirking. Let the media chew on that, he muttered. Let's see if they still clap when they know who he really is. By morning, Kelly's face was everywhere, not just on music blogs, but national news. Mystery boy stuns Lincoln Center, then vanishes backstage. Piano, prodigy, or PR stunt. Exclusive. The boy has a name. Kelly Hart, son of late billionaire Richard L. Hart. Photos of Kelly as a toddler, barefoot outside a shelter, sat beside images of Richard Hart in tuxedos. The internet did what it always did. It divided. This kid is incredible. Who cares where he came from? He's a fraud. A trust fund plant. Illegitimate son of a billionaire. How convenient. They used the mystery to build hype. Disgusting. It didn't matter that Kelly had never asked for fame, or that he hadn't known the truth until days ago. The world had already decided who he was. Evelyn sat on the couch in her sunlit living room, scrolling through the backlash with tight lips. Kelly stood behind her, silent. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "You didn't leak it. But I didn't protect you fast enough either." Kelly's fists clenched. "They think I'm a lie, like I don't deserve music because I don't come from the right box." Evelyn turned to him. "Kelly, listen to me. Music doesn't belong to the rich or the clean or the famous. Music belongs to the ones who need it most." His voice cracked. "Then why does the world try to take it away the second someone like me finds it?" Evelyn didn't have an answer. Later that day, reporters surrounded the Hart brownstone. Cameras, microphone, questions like bullets. Kelly stood behind a curtain, watching it all. "Will it ever stop?" he asked. Maya looked up from the couch, hugging her stuffed bear. "You could stop playing." Kelly stared at her. The idea hit like a cold wave. He could stop, walk away, disappear back into the cracks of the city. No more headline, no more stage. Just silence. "I don't want you to get hurt," Maya added quietly. He sat beside her. "Me neither." But that night, Kelly dreamt of the subway, of the old piano, of music flowing through his fingers like fire. He woke up gasping, heart-pounding, because now he knew. The music wasn't something he could walk away from. It was him. Across town, Senator Camden watched the fallout unfold exactly as planned, but something still gnawed at him. The boy had power, not just talent. Presence. Influence. If Kelly found the right platform, the right allies, he wouldn't just be a musical threat. He'd be a political one, especially if he ever learned the truth about why his birth had been buried and who helped erase it. Camden turned to his aide. "We need to move faster. Sir, discredit him. Disqualify him. Destroy him before he learns who really pulled the strings." Back at the brownstone, Evelyn sat Kelly down at the kitchen table. "There's a competition in Vienna," she said. "The biggest youth music showcase in the world. Winners get training, scholarships, global stage access. No gimmicks, just music." Kelly looked at her. "You want me to run away to Europe? I want you to take your gift somewhere they can't twist it." He shook his head. "No. No, I'm not running. Not this time." She raised an eyebrow. "Then what will you do?" Kelly looked toward the piano. "I'm going to show them who I really am." The benefit concert at Carnegie Hall was already sold out before Kelly's name was even confirmed. No longer the boy at the piano. Now the poster said it loud and clear. Kelly Hart, live in concert. The media called it redemption, a comeback, a rebuttal. But for Kelly, it was neither. It was a promise. "I'm not here to explain my past," he told the production crew. "I'm here to play. Let the music do the talking." Evelyn booked Maya and a security detail in a private box. Extra security swept the building every hour, but still, something felt off. Roland Vega, who had been quietly helping behind the scenes, approached Evelyn just hours before showtime. "There's a problem," he whispered. Evelyn's stomach dropped. Camden's people submitted a legal motion, claiming Kelly isn't emotionally stable enough to perform. They're citing childhood trauma, abandonment, and recent erratic behavior at the Lincoln Center. Evelyn's jaw clenched. "It's a smear campaign." Roland nodded. "The press already has it. TMZ, page 6. Even the time. It'll break an hour before the concert." Evelyn stormed into the dressing room. Kelly sat on the floor, eyes closed, headphones in. She pulled them gently off. "There's something you need to know." "I already saw it," he said calmly, holding up his phone. She braced. Do you want to cancel? He shook his head. If I don't play tonight, then everything they said becomes true. Evelyn's voice cracked. Kelly, you don't owe anyone. I owe Maya. I owe the kid I used to be, freezing on that bench in the subway. And I owe my dad. She blinked. Richard. No, I mean the one I want to become someday. Backstage, the orchestra tuned their instruments. Stagehands checked every light, every mic. Camden sat in the front row. No smirk this time, just calculation. Beside him sat a lawyer with a manila folder labeled Kelly Hart, sealed records. Everything was in place. When the conductor finally stepped up to the mic, the crowd silenced. Tonight, we welcome not just a performer, but a voice the world nearly missed. Please welcome Kelly Hart. The curtain rose. Kelly walked out alone. No smile, no spectacle. Just a boy in a simple black shirt and fire in his eyes. He sat and played. This time, it was not delicate. It was war. The piece he composed had no name. It had thunder in its chords, earthquakes in its pacing, each note a blade cutting through years of silence and shame. The audience didn't clap during transitions. They couldn't. They were stunned. And then came the final section. Gentle, haunting. A lullaby. Maya's lullaby. The song she hummed to herself every night when they had nothing. Kelly slowed one last chord. And silence. Then roar. Applause. Screams. Ovation. Every person stood, except one. Senator Camden remained seated, unmoved, stone-faced. But as he rose to leave, something unexpected happened. The screen behind Kelly lit up a surprise Evelyn had arranged. It displayed a scanned photo, a newborn baby in a hospital blanket. Next to it, a signature, Richard L. Hart, father. The crowd gasped. Kelly turned toward Camden, met his gaze, and for the first time, smiled. It was quiet, but it was a checkmate. Sometimes, the most powerful performances aren't about perfect technique. They're about pain, about hope, about everything that couldn't be said, finally finding its voice. Kelly Hart didn't play to prove anything. He played to remember who he was, to remind the world that genius doesn't always come in neat packages. That love, talent, and truth. They're not defined by bloodlines, bank accounts, or birth certificate. They're defined by what you choose to do with your gift. And Kelly, he chose to play. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who needs a little hope today. And make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell, so you never miss the next story that just might change your life.